Welcome to the Wells Fargo Center for the game of the year today in Big East Hoops, the game of the day in college basketball. A top 12 showdown as the Seton Hall Pirates pay a visit to the Villanova Wildcats. Big East Shootaround set the table for you. He is Daryl Reynolds,
my man.
the Villanova national champion.
My man.
He's Matt Schumacher in from Indy.
Daryl, where's the ring, man?
No,
this is a big-time game. You got to rock the championship ring.
There's too many Seton Hall fans around. Not today. Not today.
One of us played. Take a guess who? Daryl Reynolds played Seton Hall a lot at Villanova, had a lot of success as well, but you've talked about how the Pirates, they're the team that always brought a challenge. What is it like playing in this rivalry?
Seton Hall is a team that really prides themselves on being the toughest team out there on the floor. Their coach, they embody that from him, so it always turns into a matchup. A lot like we've seen between Villanova and Butler last week. It's going to constantly turn into a game where you got to grind it out. So it's going to be a good one regardless of what happens.
We look at the Big East. This Seton Hall team, they lost last Saturday to Xavier, but that is their only blemish. 9-1 in the conference. A win today, and they're 3 games up in the standings. For Villanova, trying to avoid what would be a sudden 3-game losing streak, Matt. And if they can win this, they get within a game of the Hall. But the fact is, the Pirates are in control of the standings.
Yeah, absolutely. And Miles Powell talked about that. There's a real feeling amongst this group that they control their own destiny. And a win today, going 3 games up on the Villanova Wildcats, puts Seton Hall in a really good position to do something they haven't done since 1992. That's win the Big East regular season championship. And John, you know what's crazy? Daryl, I know you're going to like this stat. Only one team since realignment has won other than Villanova. It was Xavier back in 2017-2018. Maybe a shifting of the guard.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's a possibility. Like we said, they're 2 games up right now with a win today. It looks like it's out of reach completely. So Dwayne Anderson, another Villanova fan, what's going on with you?
Scared. All over the place.
He's game ready.
Scared the hell out of him. But
if you tell people that you know Daryl Reynolds, that works, right? It works. He knows people.
You kicked out the arena. But
have you ever been kicked out of here?
No.
Have you ever been kicked out of Xfinity Live?
Yes, unfortunately.
All right, that's for another show. That's for Live PD, A&E Friday nights, I think. So we've got Seton Hall and Villanova coming up here at 2:30 Eastern Time on Fox. Here's a nugget for you that's amazing. These 2 teams have met 117 times before today. They have never met when both have been ranked in the AP Top 25. It's the biggest regular season encounter in the series.
I can't believe that when you look at just how good these 2 teams have been individually, even since conference realignment. Let's just talk about the last 6 years. You know, when you had the Pirates in the championship game, of course last year's championship game, all the regular season meetings, and yet neither have been ranked in the top 25 at the same time when meeting one another until today. It's crazy.
It's amazing. Like, the history between these 2 programs are crazy. Remember when the conference first realigned, that game up Madison Square Garden, Sterling Gibbs steps back, hits that 3, knocks Villanova out the Big East tournament. Yeah. A year later, it comes down to those 2. Like, it's so much history between these 2, and maybe that's why this game feels as intense as it does. But like you said, that top 12 matchup, that definitely adds on to it.
What else is on the line here today? Seton Hall has not won at Villanova since 1994. The Cats, they've had battles with the Pirates, but not in Philadelphia. Villanova has absolutely controlled this series. Now, for this Wildcats team, Sadiq Bey and Colin Gillespie willed them back against Butler the other night before Kamar Baldwin was the hero. But 57 combined points for Gillespie and Bey. Daryl, those 2 are the knowns for this team. They've delivered.
Yes.
What has to happen for the Wildcats to get over the top and start to go on a run the other direction?
I mean, on the other half of that, Seton Hall, we got
a chokehold from Whitey Rigsby. It's better you're chokeholding him than me.
I knew it.
The stars are out here today. Whitey, wait, what are you on today? Give us a promo. You're on the radio?
Yes, I'm on the radio. 610 ESPN.
610 ESPN, coming up 2:30.
Coming up at 2:30. Big game today, John. It's always a big game when John's there.
What's the key to the game?
I think Villanova has to find a way to get to the basket and get away from Gill blocking every shot.
All right. How would you describe Daryl Reynolds as a ball handler?
Awful.
Wow.
An honest man.
Pulling no punches.
An honest
He's
man.
one of my favorite guys of all time. And I've been here forever, as you know, old as dirt. He couldn't handle the ball with anything. He was a great teammate, a great player at Villanova, and a national champion.
man.
That just summed it up. Catch
Thank
Whitey
you.
on
That made
6'10".
up for the chokehold. Thank you.
Wow.
No, but definitely, like I said, man, this game is so much at stake. I think for Villanova to pull out, they have to make sure they limit Miles Powell. We see on the other side of that, you had a guy who scored 34 points alone. So if they can limit him on the defensive end, I think that's what's going to help Villanova on the offensive end to take some of that pressure off.
Before we get to some of the headlines around the conference, the big headline just now, CBS revealing the NCAA Top 16, the selection committee coming out with the top 16 teams at the moment. And Seton Hall checking in at number 11, Villanova at number 12, Butler at number 15. Matt, we've talked about the Pirates and the Wildcats. They're facing each other today. What do you make of these Bulldogs?
Well, they have a saying, and it's starting to become more nationally recognized: tougher, longer. That's a big thing in the Butler locker room and in the culture around the program this year. And you know, when you look at this Butler team over recent years, they had a really good team back in 2016-17. They made it to the Sweet 16. They ended up losing to North Carolina. They won 12 games in the Big East that year. I think this team is better. I think they're tougher. And even though they had Keelan Martin back then, who is now in the NBA, you've got multiple weapons who can score. They don't score a lot of points necessarily, guys, but they're efficient with the basketball. And they defend as well as anybody in the country.
One-word description for Kamar Baldwin.
Tough.
Closer.
Clutch.
Closer, yeah.
Tough closer. Mariano Rivera of the Big
Dream
East.
killer.
Yeah, dream killer. He had an amazing game winner the other night. As we look at Big East headlines, number one, let's go down low with D-Ray. Tyreek Jones for Xavier up to 15 double-doubles. The Musketeers have won back-to-back games.
I'm a huge fan of Tyreek Jones. His game, he's a guy who plays off his athleticism. You see a lot of bigger guys stepping out, wanting to shoot, and there's nothing wrong with that. The game is changing. You have the more skill. But he is a guy that understands, listen, nobody's stronger than me. Nobody's tougher than me. And I'm going to show y'all night in and night out. And the fact that he does it on the defensive end with his rebounding as well as the offensive end with those amazing dunks, I'm a fan.
Plus, he's a shot alterer, too. I mean,
Yes.
how many times have we seen him just take the basketball and throw it into the third row of whatever arena he's playing in? I mean, he's playing the best that he's played in his entire career, and he's kind of changed the trajectory of this Xavier team. At this point in the season, they've won back-to-back games in the conference job.
Really something what he's been able to do in the post. Another Big East headline coming up tomorrow on FS1. Marcus Howard and the Marquette Golden Eagles, winners of 5 of their last 6, gentlemen. And Howard 38 points away from tying Lawrence Moten's all-time Big East scoring record.
Wow, is all you can say to that. And he's doing it, too, at a time where he's not the only elite scorer in the league. So not to say that he doesn't get the attention he deserves, but when you've got guys like Miles Powell, too, and Kamar Baldwin, there's so many elite scorers. Maybe he's not the headline every single night, but what he's doing, can we just take a step back and say, wow, and just appreciate. And we're going to miss him next year in this league, guys. I mean, he's just what he does on a night-in and night-out basis. It's remarkable.
He's a great player. Like you said, like we're going to miss him. We're witnessing one of the best players in the new Big East by far. Like he's a great player. And I think what's really happening, this team is starting to get it together. You know, Marquette, we had spoke about them earlier in January when the Big East has started. Like certain teams, they kind of go up. Certain teams, they go down. Certain teams stay stagnant. But the Golden Eagles have made sure just steadily, they're going up and up. And at the perfect time of year because we're getting closer and closer to the tournament.
Butler was down 10 with 5 minutes or so to go against Marquette in the first meeting in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Then Kamar Baldwin happened. Earlier this week, Kamar Baldwin happened again. Gus Johnson, take this away.
Touch low. Here's Baldwin. Don't settle deep. 5. Baldwin. Step back for the win.
I mean, how many times have we seen him do that? As a freshman, he did the same thing. I'll never forget it because I was at the game against Northwestern in the non-conference. On the other side of the court, step back, buzzer beater, game over. Closer. Right?
You know who won't miss Kamar Baldwin? Jay Wright won't miss Kamar Baldwin.
Right. And neither
Right?
will D-Ray.
D-Ray won't either.
I admire him. I'm a fan of his game. I love his tenacity and the grit that he's played with and the way he's leading these Butler Bulldogs. But no, as a Villanova fan, I am not the biggest advocate for Kamar Ball with step backs.
Well, we've got Villanova and Seton Hall coming up here, and This is a rematch of the Big East Championship game last year when Miles Powell was on a tear for Seton Hall.
Yes.
One possession game. They got to look at the buzzer, but the Cats hung on for the three-peat. Let's go down memory lane with a throwback to last year's B.E. Tourney title game. Meeting number 118 coming up between the two rivals, Seton Hall and Villanova, a top 12 showdown. You just saw that greatness on display between the two teams. Speaking of greatness, Marcus Howard defines that word for the Marquette Golden Eagles. Now 38 points away from the all-time Big East scoring record, held by the Syracuse legend, Lawrence Moden. Howard could break it tomorrow when he hosts the Butler Bulldogs. If not, could come right here at Villanova when the Golden Eagles take on the Wildcats. But for Howard, his impact goes beyond the court. Yes, his Golden Eagles have won 5 of 6 and are well on their way to the NCAA tournament. But Howard looks at his Marquette University experience as so much more than that. I caught up with him for an exclusive conversation earlier this week. What is the biggest area of your game, Marcus, that you think has risen as a result of this coaching staff at Marquette?
I mean, there could be so many things I could say, but, I think really just feeling the game out has been something that I think each and every year I've kind of gotten better and better at. And, the coaching staff has watched hours and hours of film with me. We've worked out on a lot of things on the court. And, I think just me getting a better feel for the game and playing at my own pace has been something that, has been something in my development that I've really improved on. And, the coaching staff has really helped me in that and seeing what I need to change on the court through film and feedback. So that's been something that I think I've really taken a lot of ownership in, and then the coaches have really helped me see that from a different perspective too.
You look around the Big East this year, and you lead a lot of storylines. Now you're 38 points away from the Big East all-time scoring record. Kamar Baldwin's at Butler. Alpha Diallo's at Providence. Miles Powell's at Seton Hall. How special is this senior class?
No, it's big, and it's funny just how we all came in together, all going out together. So I mean, it's been an unbelievable class. I'm privileged to be able to compete with these guys on a nightly basis. It's very rare for someone to be in a league where each and every night you're playing a guy who could be in contention for player of the year, and so to have multiple guys in one league, to be in contention for something like that is definitely something I think raises your level of play. And, the Big East is a monster, man. So, for us to all be competing night in and night out, it's definitely something that is a lot of fun, something I pride myself in, and then just something as a team that we really look forward to taking on challenges each and every game.
To be 38 points away from Lawrence Bowden's all-time Big East scoring record, I know that you've clinched a bunch of accolades throughout your career. But when you think about the fact that Chris Mullen, Patrick Ewing, I know it was first season, but like Carmelo Anthony, Alonzo Mourning, their names go on, that you are going to be number one in a category of scoring. Like, does it hit you at all how cool that is?
To be honest with you, I don't think it'll hit me until I'm a lot older. I mean, I'm in a stage of my life and in a season of my life to where, I'm just trying to take it a day at a time. God's blessed me with, a lot of great people in my life. So just to be able to cherish those moments each and every day with those people, especially here at Marquette, I want to be sure I'm making the most of every day. But I think when I'm older, I'll come to realize, how special it is that not only what I'm doing, but what our team's doing, what our community's doing here at Marquette. But, I'm extremely appreciative. There's so many great names, like you mentioned, that have played in the Big East. And to be even in conversation with those names is a blessing in itself. So I'm just so humbled by it all. But like I said, I don't think it'll hit me until I'm a lot older to where I'm like, man, my name's up there with a lot of great players, great Hall of Fame players. So, but like I said before, it's all truly a blessing. And, I'm so thankful for so many people that have helped me, get to this position.
When you think about your legacy, how do you want to be remembered to the Marquette community?
I always say it, but, basketball, especially in times like now when you deal with someone like Kobe Bryant and the tragic passing of him and those people, in that accident, you think of so many things besides the game. And when an event like that happens, you think, there's more important things than just basketball. So, in terms of my legacy, I want to be known as more than just a basketball player, I want to be known for the things I did away from the court, whether that's, what I did in the community with my faith. I know basketball is a means to an end. It's something I love to do. It's what I do, but it's not who I am. So I want to be sure that, the people understand and recognize me for a great person rather than a player, because the ball is going to stop bouncing for me at some point. I realize that in the time that I do have to play, I'm going to give it my all, give all the glory to God. But I want to be sure that I'm being known as a great person more than anything.
You've got Butler, a top 20 team coming in on Sunday on National Marquette Day, and
yep.
Part of playing in the Big East is you get them at home after going to their place.
Yep.
How much do you think about redemption?
Looking forward to it. That was definitely a game that, we felt we should have pulled out, but, they had a lot of momentum being at home. So I know us as a team, we're looking forward to coming back, playing them at our place. So it'll be something that, we look forward to. We're going to embrace. It's going to be a tough game. They're a great team. Coach Jordan coaches them up really well. So we're looking forward to a challenge. Nothing comes easy in the Big East. It's a 1 to 10. All the teams are loaded and stacked. So it's going to be a fun game. I know our fans are looking forward to it. I know us as a team are looking forward to it. So it's going to be a really fun game.
We are back in the city of brotherly love. He's D-Ray, Darryl Reynolds, Villanova national champion in 2016. He's Matt Schumacher.
Not a national champion.
You tried in track.
Yeah, right. We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. I'm John Fanta. Thanks for being with us. It's Big East Shootaround here from the Wells Fargo Center. Ahead of Villanova and Seton Hall in the top 12 showdowns. Let's look at keys to the game. We start, Darryl, with Saddiq Bey. How will he make an impact on this game?
Obviously, everybody's thinking of Saddiq on the offensive end of the floor. We've heard some whispers about him getting some matchups on Miles Powell. I think his defense, with his athleticism, his ability to switch. Villanova and Seton Hall are very versatile teams when it comes to the defensive end of the floor, but his ability to get out there is going to be huge. But on the offensive end, we definitely need him to knock down some shots and continue that three-point streak he's been on.
I think what Saddiq Bey did against Butler is emblematic of his last month of the season and why NBA scouts are so high on him right now. I was just walking around kind of getting a feel for who was in the building, who they're looking at and stuff. Saddiq Bey's draft stock and draft interest from teams around the league has skyrocketed over the last month of the season because of what he's done offensively, but also his ability to guard perimeter players.
Yes, he's amazing.
Today, he faces Miles Powell of Seton Hall. You might have heard a thing or two about him, but here's one nugget that's really something. Seton Hall is 5-0 on the road in Big East play. In those games, Miles Powell's averaging 28 points per game. Matt, how have you seen him get better?
I think so. A story came out earlier this week. Miles had a horrible practice on Monday. Horrible. After the loss against Xavier. He said it himself. He was kicking the ball around. He wasn't happy. Willard had a heart-to-heart with him. His teammates had a heart-to-heart with him and said, hey, man, you're not having fun playing the game, and you're trying to do too much. Just let the game come to you. I think that's where he's made the biggest difference this year. He's not trying to do it all himself. He's distributing. He's making good decisions. He's reading the situations, Daryl. And whatever the situation calls for, he does it.
Yeah, that's what makes him such a great player. He's obviously added a drive game to his game. He's amazing in so many different ways. But like you said, his decision making, I think that's such an underrated part of scouting a player. Their ability to say, all right, this is a good shot, this is a good pass, this is the time for me to just completely get out of the way.
The scouts missed on Darrell Reynolds' decision-making skills, is what I'm being told here. Right?
Whitey didn't.
Whitey definitely did.
Whitey didn't. Or the decision to put me in the chokehold either, but I'm going to get him back for that.
That's right. You'll get him back for that. My key to the game here is Romaro Gill for Seton Hall brings the size, but Jeremiah Robinson-Earl for Villanova brings the spacing. And against Butler at the Pavilion earlier this year, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl changed the game with some early perimeter shots, forced Butler to go a little bit smaller. Guys, I think it's huge. If Seton Hall doesn't have their rim protector in there, then they almost drop a tier because that's a huge difference for them having Gill in the game. You both know that. Matt, you saw it in Hinkle Fieldhouse.
He completely changed the dynamic of the game against Butler, who was leading by double figures at halftime against Seton Hall for like the fourth time in 5 years. And Romaro Gill defensively.
You have to stop. Hold on.
Game.
Hold the show. You have to stop in. It's Big Smooth.
So
Oh, my.
Right.
Chris Jenkins. Chris, if you ever had a question to Darrell Reynolds, what would it be?
You know, I love Darrell. This is my guy. This is my brother, man, you know? So if I had a question for him, I would just ask him, you know, with his transition into the media and stuff, now being on the other side, does it annoy you as much asking the question as getting asked the question as an athlete?
No, I'd rather be.
What's your best Big Smooth story?
That I can tell on TV?
That you can tell on TV.
Yeah.
On TV.
The time the lights went out on campus, the power went out, and me and Chris, no lie, me and Chris were driving Daniel Chefu's car, and it broke down, and we lost it. But we got it back. We got it back.
You lost the car?
Lost the whole entire car. And on that note, y'all gonna have to lose me.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, the car broke down?
How do you lose a car?
We had to get to class.
On Villanova's
We had
campus?
we weren't. No.
Okay.
So we drive into the airport. The car breaks down. We like, listen, we got to get to class. We like crash landed in the damn snow. We like get out and we'll come back for the car later. We go back for the car later. It's not there. A week later, it turned up.
It turns up where?
I can't give all the details. Like a scouting report. I can only give you some things. Just know he got his car back.
My goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Villanova, the student athletes were so into class, because you know Coach Wright would have hollered at you,
It was
that
class on car.
they drove a car into a snowbank on the freeway and got back to class. That is unbelievable.
Had to get to class. It was class in the car. I'd rather deal with class. I'm sorry.
How about that story? Well, there's going to be a story written here today, Seton Hall, Villanova. We will take a quick break after this. Fox College Hoops sideline reporter Andy Katz joins me with his keys and some national storylines.
There's nothing like the Big East tournament. It's the most competitive conference in the country.
Fans feel it. The energy in the building right now is phenomenal. You have to be determined. You have to be tough.
Every game's a big game.
Howard for the win.
It's survive and advance.
The Musketeers will move on to the semifinals.
You lose, you go home. At the end of the day, it's all about who wants it more.
And Seton Hall survived.
The Big East Tournament at Madison Square.
He'll be on the sidelines for Fox College Hoops this afternoon. It's Andy Katz, also the March Madness correspondent. And Andy, the big headline here today is the top 16 reveal coming out the Big East with 3 teams. What's your reaction?
Well, not surprised. The Big East actually had one more than the Big Ten, which also tells you that the Big Ten, which could have as many as 11 or 12 teams, is going to have a lot of clustered teams in those middle seeds, whereas the Big East maybe has a better chance to get 3 teams in that top 16. The way Butler has played in the net, they're obviously very high. And Villanova and Seton Hall, I think Seton Hall is a lock to stay there. The question will be, can Villanova win enough to stay in that top 16 over the next 5 weeks?
Butler with 8 Quadrant 1 wins, got another one of those earlier this week in an epic thriller against Villanova. Before we turn to the Wildcats and the Pirates, in the Big East, Miles Powell and Marcus Howard lead a lot of storylines. Where would you put Kamar Baldwin?
Well, it's unfortunate because in any other year, all 3 would be individually going for National Player of the Year as well as Big East Player of the Year. But they're going to cancel each other out. I still think that Miles Powell will ultimately be the National Player of the Year and the Big East Player of the Year.
Why?
Because Seton Hall, I think, will win the Big East. He has embraced the big moment. And, I think they're going to be a high enough seed where it's all going to come together for him.
This matchup here today, you've talked with both coaches. Let's start with Jay Wright. What's his key?
Well, the key is obviously keying on Miles Powell defensively. They did not do a great job on Kamar Baldwin. It'll be interesting to see how they defend Miles. That's clearly an issue for Villanova. So that's issue number 1. For Seton Hall, what has translated, just talking to Kevin Willard, is they've been so good on the road. And I asked him why that is. And he says, what happened early in the season, playing at Rutgers, packed house. At Iowa State, packed house. Playing the 3 games in the battle for Atlantis prepared them for this kind of environments that they're going to face in the Big East.
So this one comes at 2:30 Eastern Time on Fox. We know about Miles Powell for Seton Hall, Sadiq Bey on the other side. What's also intriguing about this matchup is the point guard showdown. Colin Gillespie going up against one of the more improved players you're going to find in Quincy McKnight, who's averaging 7 assists per game in Big East play.
Yeah, he's obviously played exceptionally. Had a little scare where, thought he was going to be hurt long term. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, which is good news. For Gillespie, I was in this building in December, and he was a catalyst to get them to that win over Kansas because he makes things happen defensively. Reads the passing lane so well. So that's what I'm going to be watching is if it starts trending toward Seton Hall, does Colin figure out a way to change the momentum because he's been able to do that so successfully?
After those 3 teams that we just talked about, Seton Hall, Villanova, Butler, all in the top 16 reveal, who do you trust the most in the Big East?
After those 3, Marquette, because they have Marcus Howard. So Marquette is that other team that I would trust the most, and the ability to make sure that they're in the NCAA tournament. I will say this, though. I think Big East fans, you've got 5 locks. Those 4 I just mentioned, and Creighton. DePaul and St. John's, I don't see it. I think there are 3 bubble teams. Providence, Xavier, and Georgetown. The winner of tonight's Providence-Xavier game will feel good about themselves. The loser is going to feel some anxiety, which is natural.
That comes your way at 8 Eastern Time on FS1. Musketeers have won back-to-back games. Tyreek Jones with 15 double-doubles. And the Friars all of a sudden look like a different team, the team that was picked in the top 4 of this league.
Yeah, look, they're hurt by their 4 quad 3, quad 4 losses. That's going to haunt them. So how do you make up for that? Well, down the stretch, we were there the other night, we kind of feel like they have to go at least 11-7 in the Big East.
Yeah.
Not easy. They've got some home games that they can win, including Seton Hall. We'll see.
Should be fun. This place is going to be rocking here today. Game of the day in the sport?
Yes. And there's plenty today.
Yeah. Seton Hall, Nova coming up. We'll take one last time out. Andy, thank you as always.
Sorry, thank you.
Read him on NCAA.com at the Andy Katz. One more break. We'll be back to wrap it up.
There's nothing like the Big East tournament. It's the most competitive conference in the country.
Fans feel it. The energy in the building right now is phenomenal. You have to be determined. You have to be tough.
Every game's a big game.
Howard for the win.
It's survive and advance.
The Musketeers will move on to the semifinals.
You lose, you go home. At the end of the day, it's all about who wants it more.
And Seton Hall survived.
The Big East Tournament at Madison Square Garden. Get tickets now.
Another cool thing with this Seton Hall Nova matchup, you get the Pirate Glory Days blue against Villanova's retro unis with that gold trim.
Yeah.
Honoring the 1970s. They went to the national title game in 71. The shorts were a little higher back then.
Just a little bit. I'm bitter because we didn't get those uniforms. That's why I say yeah like that. I like them on them, but I would have loved to have those shorts myself.
You like those 85 ones?
Yes. Yes.
Those
Very
are
much so.
silky smooth.
Exactly.
Georgetown DePaul tied at 57 right now. They're just in my ear. Tied at 57. Fox Sports Regional Networks. If you're in the D.C. area, Maston 2. Matt, your final key to this one.
I'm going to go free throw shooting. Villanova's the best free throw shooting team in the league. They make nearly 80% of their foul shots. They score a lot of points. I think Seton Hall has to keep them off the foul line. They average taking 17.5 foul attempts at home this season. You cannot give Villanova unguarded looks at the rim. They just score too easily in the pace of play. And then to give them multiple shots at the foul line, it's a recipe for disaster. I think Seton Hall keeps them off the line. They have a chance to win.
We've talked a lot about Colin. We've talked a lot about Miles Powell. We talked a lot about Sadiq Bey. No.
I think I know where you might be going.
I think a lot of this game is going to come down to how Quincy McKnight and Jeremiah Robinson Earl play. I think those secondary storylines is huge. Quincy McKnight's going to have a lot of matchups on Colin. And like you said, I'm taking a page out of your book. Jeremiah, you know what I mean? He's undersized down there, but he stretches the floor.
I thought you might go with Big Game Maine.
Oh. I mean, Big Game Maine is every time, especially in here. But we're going to see. We're going to see.
I think we've discussed a bunch of the keys to this game. One thing is for certain, when you're playing Villanova at their place, whether it's on campus or here at Wells Fargo, if Villanova gets off to a strong start, they never look back. They're a very good team with the lead. And for me, Seton Hall has got to settle into this game, but that could be challenging. So how are those opening minutes played out? What will happen in those opening minutes? To your point, the complementary scoring is really interesting. Will Jared Roden for Seton Hall, who's taken that lead, will it show in this game? For Villanova, Robinson Earl's averaging 11 and 9.7 rebounds. He's a great rebounder.
Yeah.
And as good as Seton Hall is in protecting the rim, they give up rebounds as a result of times, and Robinson Earl can eat on the glass. And also, I think Jermaine Samuels could provide a boost in this game as well.
You know, somebody that Daryl and I were talking to off air, or talking about off air, I should say, is Mamu.
Yes.
What is his effect and impact on this game? I think you talk secondary, he might be a third layer storyline. Mamu goes off defensively,
game gets a lot harder.
He changes the game for Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely.
Yes, he does. In the Big East standings, it is plain and simple. Seton Hall at the top at 9-1. Villanova with the 3 Big East losses. They need to win to get a game behind the Hall. If the Pirates win, they are 3 games up with 7 to play, all but locking up that control of the regular season crown. This is a huge game. 2 top 12 teams, 2 NCAA tournament locks and high seeds, and a rematch of the Big East title game, and maybe a preview of what's to come at the Garden. And they're playing Daryl's favorite hits in the background. Who sings this?
Drake. Gunna and Lil Baby, sorry. All 3 of
Meeks
them.
coming up here from Wells Fargo, and so are the Pirates and Cats. Thanks for being with us on Big East Shootaround. For Ben Piastik, Bobby Mellon, our producers. He's the Shoe Deal. He's D-Ray. For Andy Katz as well, I'm John Fanta. 2:30 Eastern time on Fox. Follow at Big East MBB for the updates. So long from Wells Fargo. And if you see Daryl at Xfinity Live, make sure he buys you a drink.